The Axiom can do a bunch of other cool things from its surface that you might use while performing live or even while controlling your sequencer. Let's take a look at those features. Some of them are, you can recall presets for your different modules you're trying to control. You can select different zones on the keyboard, so we can assign different zones to different MIDI channels and whatnot and play those. And then there are a bunch of cool, useful features like null feature, mute feature, drawbar feature, MIDI out feature, snapshot feature, and velocity and acceleration curve adjustments so you can tailor the keyboard and the knob acceleration feel to what you want to do. To get to those features, you've got to zoom in on this part of the screen. That's the part where we're really close, and it's kind of hard to see even when you're up close to it. But if you look at it, you can see there are some labels on top of buttons, and then there are labels painted on the front in between buttons. To get to the in-between features, you press both buttons on either side of the paint. So for example, the first one there, Excel curve, to get to that you press mute and program together, and that brings up the Excel curve adjustment. To demo this feature, I'm going to go to Pro Tools, and in Pro Tools I've got it set up so that Pro Tools can respond on 3 different MIDI channels. You got to see I've got 3 tracks in record there, and they're set to, let's go over here, USB Axiom 61, port 1, channel 1, and then the other 2 tracks are 3 and 4. And as before, I have my Access Virus hardware unit connected to MIDI channel 2 through the MIDI out on the back of the Axiom. So I'm controlling both a hardware synth and 3 different soft synths. Actually, not 3 different soft synths. One of them is the Access Virus Indigo plugin here, and then the other ones are going to Reason and playing Thors. So there's Thor number 1 and Thor number 2. Then I'm playing, I take it back. I'm playing a Strike and a Thor. So Strike is another cool drum plugin here. And let's get to the home screen on that thing. It's pretty cool. Definitely like it. But so I'm playing Indigo plugin, Strike plugin within Pro Tools, and then a Thor through Rewire to Reason. So I've got a rack of synths here in Reason, and we'll play that one. I know it's complicated, but you can have 4 different zones on the Axiom, and I want to be able to take advantage of all of those for this demo. All right, to do that, what we have to do is recall a preset that we like. So I'm going to recall my Pro Tools Control preset, and that's saved as preset number 2 in the Enigma software we're going to see later. But for now, to do that, you just need to know that you're going to hit recall on the front panel and then the number 02, and that's going to recall my Pro Tools preset. So if I hit play, Pro Tools will play. Actually, it won't play because we haven't done the rest of the configuration necessary, but we'll see that later in the special tutorial just on using Pro Tools. First feature I'll demo here is setting up some zones. And to do that, we can set a MIDI channel or group to go with each different zone. I'm going to first go with zone 1, and you can set these zones, which keys, the start key and the end key, up in the Enigma software, or you can do it here. You could press the zone range feature, and we're going to go from C1 to C2, for example, and that would make zone 1 only this part of the keyboard. But for what I'm going to do, I want to use this thing to play different sounds live. That's what I'm headed for with this setup. So I'm going to make my zone range the whole range of the keyboard, and go ahead and give it a different MIDI channel. To do that, we press the zone group button. We get a nice blue LED here, and we select a zone. Once that blue LED is on, you can follow the paint here, and you've got 4 different buttons that are lit up for 4 different zones. And you can see I can move through the different zones on the front panel. Let's go ahead and set those their own MIDI channel. Now you already saw we could set a global MIDI channel with the global channel button, but we don't want global anymore. We want specific for each zone. So we're going to press zone 1, and then in the paint in between global channel and zone range is zone channel. So we're going to press both those buttons, bring up the zone channel. If the zone channel is set to 00, like it is, that sets us to the global channel. We don't want that. We want this to be channel 1, so I'm going to hit the plus key. So zone 1 is channel 1. And now I'm going to move to zone 2, hit the zone group button, the 2, and these two keys together and set that to channel 2. It's already set. Same thing with zone 3, zone channel, channel 3, it's already set. And let's check the fourth one, zone 4, hit the zone channel button and see that set to channel 4. Cool. The way that works is if I hit zone group 1 and play some keys, now I'm playing my synth, my virus synth plugin inside of Pro Tools. So take a look at that, because it's being sent out MIDI channel 1 only. If I go to zone 2, now I'm sending out channel 2, which is also going out the MIDI cord on the back of the unit. Got a MIDI cord over here. See if you can see that. Yep. Going to my access virus sitting here. And I'll octave that up. If I go to zone 3, I'm playing the strike plugin. And if I go to zone 4, I should be playing the Thor. Or misplaying it in that case. So I'm playing the Thor. I can jump between them. Very cool for programming parts. Don't have to go over and do a bunch of mouse clicks. Or for playing live. Playing live, you can just use your zones. Now you say to yourself, well, what if I want to layer some sounds? No problem. You want to layer the inside the computer virus and the outside the computer virus. Press both zones 1 and 2 at the same time. Get a pretty fat sound, or even all 4. Well, let's get rid of the drums. That would be pretty noisy. Cool stuff. A lot of power in the zones. All right, a few other cool features we want to touch on here. We have a null button. If we light the null light over here with this button, now when I move a slider, nothing's going to happen until I reach the previous value sent from that slider. So if I was on another program and messed up the position of this slider and I jump back to my current program, I don't want to be in the middle of live performance and touch the filter cutoff and whoo, have it go wide open and during a quiet part of the set and scare everyone. I can use the null feature, and then I have to slide the slider until it picks up the value. Once it matches the value last sent, then it drags on from there. Now you say to yourself, well, what if that slider was used for something else, like if you're in Reason and you're inside the same preset, but you have a different module? Yeah, it doesn't work. It only works if you're sticking with the same preset that you previously sent something out of, or the zone you sent something out of. So, it's useful in some situations. Another key that's interesting is the mute key, and you can use that to preset something else. So if you're going to use a drawbar setting, let's say you've got a drawbar setting in the verse, in your B4 plugin, you're going to set your drawbars in a different position, and you come out of the verse, unmute, and nothing's happened yet because we haven't moved a slider to send the new drawbar positions. We need to move them to send it. But that would be a drag to have to move them all. That kind of defeats the mute button. Well, the opposite of the mute button is the snapshot button. And if we press these two, the plus and minus together, we'll fire off the position of all controllers. So I press that, a little snapshot picture of a camera shows up in the screen, and pow, we just fired off the position of all controllers. So we get to the chorus, pow, we send our new controller positions, and now we've got chorus drawbar settings. Maybe not the best in the world, but a good example. While we're talking drawbars, there's some more paint here that says drawbar. So if we press the two buttons above drawbar, you can see a little icon shows up in the screen that looks like a drawbar. And what that does is it reverses the position of these sliders. So now 127 is at the bottom, 0 is at the top. If we turn drawbar off, it's the opposite. 127 at the top, 0 at the bottom, like a mixer fader. But drawbars get louder when you pull them toward you on a Hammond B3, so you can put them in drawbar mode if you're doing that kind of thing. Another feature you need to know about is if you get stuck notes. You switch from one zone to the next and leave a note hanging or something, you can, in panic mode, send note offs to every channel everywhere. And the panic feature is in the paint down here underneath these two buttons. So you hit those two buttons and panic is in the display for a second. Note off is sent on all MIDI channels. Turn everybody off. One more thing we can do while we're here is if we make changes to our preset, something like drawbar mode, or we edit a controller value, we can hit the data 1 button and move a slider. We can change the controller that's being controlled by that slider. And if we do that, we want to save that perhaps, we'll hit the store button here, and that will store to preset 03 our new edited value. That's useful if you're going to edit the drum pads to trigger different drums. Like in Red Drum and Reason, you've got more drum pads than you, or drum sounds than you have here. You only have 8 pads here, so if you want one of those to be something different, you can hit the data 1 and then click on the drum pad and go ahead and change the note that's played. Oh, data 1, drum pad. There we go, a little flashing note icon. We can change that note. I don't have any sounds connected to this right now, but imagine that I did. We'll do that a little bit later when we get to one of the programs. The probably Reason, I'll show you how to do that. One last feature we have is MIDI out. There's a MIDI out feature here shown in between these two buttons. If I press that, a picture of MIDI jack shows up on the screen, and that kind of does the opposite of what I thought it would do. MIDI out doesn't make MIDI go out when you play notes. In fact, if I select zone 2 right now, I'm not going to be playing anything, because now the MIDI out is being used as a MIDI out from the computer, like a MIDI interface out, instead of a keyboard out. I suppose I could put software through on in my computer software like Pro Tools and send back out the through to the MIDI interface, and then I could play my instrument. Might be a good way to go. But if you want to use this guy in live performance, you actually want the MIDI out off, and then you can send things out the MIDI out jack from your keys. Then what's coming out the MIDI out jack is identical to what's being sent down the USB cable.